Good morning, devotees. Hare Krishna, glories to Srila Prabhupada. We didn't, last time we met, it was Balaram's appearance day. And so we missed Brihad Bhagavatamrita. When I was just looking at the verses which are coming up, I believe that it may be best to read some of them and focus on the reading with some small commentary, but because they're mostly discussing the same point. And although it would be good to reference that the point is the difference between meditation and Harinam Sankirtan. And the Vaikuntha Dutas are giving their evidence about, again, the superiority of Harinam Sankirtan based on the simple reason that that meditation is appropriate when there's nothing, or the object of one's meditation is not seen, and therefore it is a means to achieve the object of one's meditation. However, the verse explains that Harinam Sankirtan is superior because Harinam Sankirtan is both when the object is not seen, object of one's attachment is not seen, and when the object of one's attachment is seen. And there's going to be many verses which will lead to this conclusion, and then there's a very nice conclusion after that, and we're getting towards the end of this chapter about the glories of Harinam Sankirtan, at which point the Vaikuntha Dutas are going to once again tell Gopakumar to follow Lord Shiva's indication that he should go back down to Mathura. And when he returns to Mathura, then everything looks very wonderful there. He wanders into Mathura, and then he hears Srimad Bhagavatam, the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam and other various shastras in Mathura. Then he meets his spiritual master again, and then he prepares himself for his next journey, which is to Vaikuntha, which the Vaikuntha Dutas were indicating would be the best place for him to go by his method of Harinam Sankirtan. Now, of course, we still have a long way to go in all respects. We have a long way to go in terms of Gopakumar's journeys after Vaikuntha, where he goes to Dwarka, Ayodhya, back to Mathura, and then he goes, finally, he achieves Vrindavan, and of course, many wonderful discussions, specifically from Uddhava and Narada Muni, will be disclosed to Gopakumar and Vaikuntha, where they speak to him about the very confidential descriptions of the mood of the residents of Vrindavan and the particular attachment they have for Krishna, and the confidentiality of such topics, as well as many times in the course of their conversation with Gopakumar, they will disclose that things that we're talking about, we have to be careful who's listening. And again, it's to give indication of the very, very confidential experience which the devotee achieves upon entering into Goloka Vrindavan. And of course, many things could be said on that topic, and I'm not going to jump ahead. I'm only bringing these points up because I'm realizing we have a long way to go. We're only about halfway through the second volume, and we still have the whole third volume. And I've been speaking for almost 2 months now, just on this one section of the second volume of Brihad Bhagavatamrita, because they were verses specifically in connection with the holy name, and that's how it all started, going back all the way to the beginning when we spoke about Sanatana Goswami and how he weaved the 9 processes of devotional service into the Brihad Bhagavatamrita so beautifully, and then took Lord Chaitanya's instructions by emphasis on the superiority of chanting above all other processes of devotional service. So that's why I went to the holy name. But now I'm beginning to realize, because I don't know how long these classes will continue, but from all indication, it looks like I'm going to be sitting here in front of this camera, and I'm not going to be sitting in any temple room at any time in the near future giving classes, which I thought I would be months ago. But I think it's becoming very obvious, especially at the rate we're watching I don't know how much people are watching. I don't really watch so much, but I do have Raj Kumar comes in, and he usually gives me the daily tally, the statistics, especially here in India. The statistics are increasing exponentially, and just today, we received a notice stating that there are devotees on the Mayapur campus who've been tested with antibodies of COVID-19, which indicates that they either have it and there's no symptoms, or they had it when they thought they had a seasonal flu. And it's at least indications are, I don't want to go into all this again. We covered this back in April. And I'm not going to revisit it. We're doing the best thing possible. But I'm sensing the indications are that these classes could be going on for some time. So let's move forward on Brihad Bhagavatamrita, and let's anticipate that I'll probably go into further chapters beyond this chapter. And I'm going to move along a little bit quickly in this part of this chapter of Brihad Bhagavatamrita because there is some repetition. And although I certainly won't finish the chapter today, but I'm just giving you an indication of what's to come. There's a lot more in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, and it's all very, very relishable. And my hope is that by hearing it and discussing it, and we can somehow, as recommended in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, in this chapter as well, we can get a little taste, begin to relish of a platform of experience which is beyond our daily experiences of this world, and give us a glimpse as to what is awaiting us if we go on hearing these transcendental narrations with faith, and if we go on chanting the holy name with faith, meditating on the object of our service. And as we spoke about in the last time also, if somehow a little attraction can be awakened in our hearts, the true benefit of that attraction having once awakened in the heart is that there's the hope that the hankering for it will also be increased within the heart, which is in itself the very foundation of our advancement in Krishna consciousness and devotional service, both in our chanting and our hearing and in our remembering. As Sanatana Goswami and Gopal Kumar will bring out, they're all meant to bring us to that platform of hankering. And it's the hankering, and coupled with the hearing and chanting and remembering and serving, that cleanses the heart. Cleanses the heart and gives us the required foundation, which is essential for advancement in Krishna consciousness. So I'm going to read where we left off. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Brihad Bhagavatamrita. I don't remember what verse. I'm pretty sure. If somebody remembers, maybe you just type it in and I'll see it. But I'm pretty sure, but not completely sure, that the last verse we spoke on is when the Vaikuntha Dutas indicated to Gopal Kumar that he had received the greatest mercy of the Lord. It was firmly established because the arguments of the residents of Tapaloka could not dissolve your eagerness to see in person the Supreme Lord, which was text 174. No, actually, I think I did text 175 also. I'll read it. As we said, we're going to do some reading. I'll reading and give it a little summary. I'll read the Sanskrit. Rupam Satyam Kalu Bhagavata Satchidananda Sandram Yogyaya Gayam Bhavati Karanai Satchidananda Rupam Mam Sakshibhyam Tadapi Gatate Tasya Karunya Shaktya Sajho Labhya Tad Uchita Gatir Darshanam Svihayat Va. The form of the personality of Godhead, absolutely real, is the concentrated essence of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Only with senses that are fit, one can perceive that Satchidananda form, yet by the power of the Lord's mercy, even with the present eyes, quickly one can see it. Thus one beholds the object most suitable for one's vision. One achieves this by the Lord's mercy, or even by one's own endeavor. Commentary. This verse and the next summarize the opinions of Pippalayan Rishi, who on Tapaloka had recommended meditation to Gopakumar as the best method of realizing the Supreme Lord. Only with senses that are fit can one perceive the Lord, he had said, but the Lord's mercy can transform the limited senses of a conditioned soul, making them fit to perceive the unlimited. By the Lord's mercy potency, Karunya Shakti, his personal form is revealed to a fortunate soul. or that soul may be empowered to discover the Lord even with his own senses. No material conditions can limit the influence of the Supreme Lord's Karunya Shakti. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshu Unmanitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Bangum Langayate Garim Yatkripatamaham Bande Shri Gurundina Taranam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvashesha Sunyavari Pastuchade Sitarane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. This verse and the next verse, as explained in the commentary, the Vaikuntha Duta's summary of what Gopakumar had already heard from Pipalayana Rishi. Now, as we indicated before, we quoted one verse, and only one verse, that Pipalayana Rishi was asking Gopakumar, why are you wandering around trying to see the Lord with your eyes? Don't you know it's better to see him within your heart? Because if you see him within your heart, you get the benefit of seeing him within your heart, and you can also see him outside too. Although seeing him outside, Sanatana Goswami states that the words that are used are Sakshad Iva. The Sakshad Iva means as if Sakshad, as if seeing him. But it's not actually seeing him, it's as if seeing him. So this is what Pipalayana Rishi is describing, and we're going to read those verses. There's only 10 verses with very short commentaries, again, which will summarize what Pipalayana Rishi told Gopakumar Antapaloka about this form of meditation, and coupled with devotional service and the opportunity to see the Lord externally, as if, the words that are used here, one achieves this by the Lord's mercy or even by one's own endeavor. Actually, what it's actually saying, the verse is actually saying, it's not by one's own endeavor, but you can see the Lord even with material eyes, if the Lord gives you the mercy to see him with those material eyes. And the point that's going to be made is, most important is getting the mercy. Because without mercy, whether you have completely enlightened with knowledge, whether you have realized the form of the Lord in your heart, without mercy, you can't actually see him, even within the mind. He has to agree to appear there. And so, what is it that invokes that mercy? Well, Pipalayana Rishi is going to explain to Gopakumar that the way to invoke that mercy is meditation. And Vaikuntha Dutas are going to culminate that the best way to invoke that mercy is Harinam Sankirtan. That's essentially what we're going to be covering in these verses. Without mercy, no hope, no way. With mercy, you can get within the heart, revealed within, revelation within the heart, and you can see him also without, but without mercy, it's not possible. And if you want to get mercy, best way to get mercy is the holy name. So, this verse as we said, is sort of like a summary of what Pipalayana Rishi, in the 10 verses, we're going to read from the second chapter. And I'll read through them just to get a sense of what Gopakumara heard. He heard a lot more than just this, but what he heard and what he left behind. So he says, text 87, chapter 2, you should, Pipalayana Rishi, not Vaikuntha, please try to follow. You should concentrate your mind in meditation. Then you will naturally see the Lord everywhere, within and without, as if always before you in person. And this is Gopakumar might ask why he shouldn't go where he can directly see the Lord. But Pipalayana advises him instead to focus his attention within. When one fully cultivates meditation and reaches the stage of samadhi, the form of the Lord will manifest itself on its own strength without one's separate endeavor, just as a person's face appears in a clean mirror. If Gopakumara follows the recommended yoga process, he will see the Supreme within and without, or at least seemingly so, sakshat iva. Since, in fact, the Supreme Lord cannot be viewed with external eyes, there is no use wandering around to find him. Again, Pipalayana Rishi. He's saying this. Text 88. Lord Vasudeva, the Supreme Soul, the embodiment of eternity, knowledge, and bliss, reveals himself in a thoroughly purified heart and nowhere else. I'm going to skip the commentary, go to the next verse. Then, with nothing else going on in the mind, direct vision of Lord Hari with one's eyes takes place in the heart. Commentary. Here, Pipalayana anticipates Gopakumara's doubt. Is the meditation Pipalayana is describing as valid as direct perception with one's eyes? Pipalayana argues here that when one seems to be seeing Lord Hari with one's eyes, the source of that perception is actually one's heart. Only after the mind puts aside all other objects of perception does the Lord reveal himself in the heart. It is the mind that then performs the work of visualizing the Lord, though the perceiver does not consciously analyze. I am seeing the personality of Godhead, not with my eyes, but my mind. According to Pipalayana, one's realization of the Supreme Lord becomes vividly concrete, susidyati, by the power of the mind, not the eyes, which with their limited scope can neither comprehend the limbs of the Lord all at once, nor fully recognize his enchanting beauty. Text 90. When the mind is happy, all the senses are automatically happy, for the functions of the senses, speech, vision, hearing, and so on, are included within those of the mind. Text 91. Without the functions of the mind, the functions of all the senses are useless, for even if one acts, one's deeds will be as if never performed, because the self will be unable to perceive them. Text 92. If the Lord, out of compassion for his devotees, sometimes reveals himself to their eyes, that vision actually occurs by the power of the mind. One only imagines the eyes to be the seers. Text 93. And even if by the power of his mercy he becomes visible to external eyes, the bliss that arises from seeing him has its natural source in the heart. Text 94. That bliss later continues in the heart even after the Lord is no longer visible to the eyes. Thus, the worthy receiver of that bliss is the mind alone. Text 95. As much as the mind becomes peaceful, to that extent its pleasure grows. No external sense can feel such expanding pleasure. They're saying, forget it. Senses can't get that pleasure with your senses. Forget it. Stay with us. We've got what you're looking for. If you want to see what you're looking for, stay here. When the text 96, when the Lord expands his special mercy, one sees the Lord within by meditation, as if directly with the eyes. This we can understand from what happened to lotus-born Brahma. Vaikuntha Dutas are going to talk about Brahma because Pippalaina Rishi uses Brahma as an example. The Vaikuntha Dutas are going to make it clear. Yes, Brahma saw, by dint of his meditation, performed japa, performed meditation, and then the Lord revealed to him himself, his form, and the expanse of the Vaikuntha. But the Vaikuntha Dutas are going to tell, as we'll read, tell Gopakumar, it's very rare, very, very rare, that such revelations and visions and opportunities to see, as Lord Brahma did by dint of his meditation. Those examples are very rare. So, of course, somebody may also say, well, it's also very rare to see the Lord by the other means as well. Krishna definitely does say, Samahatma Sudurlabha, such great souls are very rare. But nonetheless, let us stick to the essence of the point that the Vaikuntha Dutas are going to make is, yes, it may be rare, but getting mercy by chanting is much more a much more munificent way to obtain that vision than by meditation, especially by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Especially. What Lord Chaitanya has come to give through the chanting of the holy name, by his own experience of chanting his own holy names, and by his own distribution of his names, and by his associates who revealed their realizations by chanting those names, and by service to Lord Chaitanya, yata yata gora padara vinde, to that degree that one renders service to Lord Chaitanya, to that degree one becomes qualified to actually see the pastimes of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. Lord Chaitanya is definitely making this most rarely achieved love of Godhead easily accessible, especially in this age of Kali. This has to be understood. So Brahma's meditation and his vision is not recommended, and so much evidence Prabhupada gives in his commentaries and in many verses of the shortcomings of such meditation in this age, as he so many times explains, the duration of life that's required, the amount of time, extent that one has to engage in such meditation. Consider Brahma, how much time he spent in meditation. So let's stick with the most important essence of which the Vaikuntha Dutas are going to bring to light by the end of this chapter, is that best way to get that mercy is chanting. And there's a very wonderful verse which we won't get to today. I hardly doubt it. We'll get to it today, which explains why. Because Krishna is more attracted to his own name than he is than his own form. He's more attracted. And that's a very nice verse that the Vaikuntha Dutas are going to bring to light of why is he more attracted? Because that name is so easily accessible everywhere. Where's the form? Not so easily accessible. But the name, you read Harinam Chintamani, Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes how in this material world there are only two realities, the jiva and the holy name. And the holy name is the reality that one first comes in contact with in this world, because it is only by coming in contact with the holy name that one can gradually begin to understand the form, qualities, and pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Without the holy name, there's no access. Meditation, well, not in this age. If we want to wait around for such a yuga, you may think that that's more attractive, but I'm not sure we should be so keen to wait that long before achieving the object of our desired meditation and through chanting, especially when it's so easily accessible and described in Chaitanya Charitamrita emphatically again and again, how easily accessible the Lord is through his names by Lord Chaitanya himself. You've so kindly made yourself so easily accessible by your names. Okay, so the last verse was, when the Lord expands his special mercy, one sees the Lord within by meditation, as if directly with the eyes. This we can understand from what happened to lotus-born Brahma. And that's it. That's all I'm going to read from the second chapter. That's what Gopakumar heard from Pipalayana Rishi, and as we said, he moved on. So now the Vaikuntha Dutas are summarizing in these two verses what we just, today's verse which we've read so far, that the form of the personality of Godhead, absolutely real, is the concentrated essence of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Only with senses that are fit can one perceive that Satchidananda form, yet by the power of the Lord's mercy, even with the present eyes, quickly one can see it. Thus one beholds the object most suitable for one's vision. One achieves this by the Lord's mercy, or even by one's own endeavor. Text 176. Even though one's vision of the Lord has its origin in the eye of knowledge, one may think, quote, I am seeing him with my own two eyes, end of quote. This simply indicates the power of Krishna's mercy, by which the devotee feels his own special joy unfurl. Commentary. Some less devotional thinkers would argue, to Pipalayana, that one can behold the Supreme Lord only with the eye of knowledge, not with the external senses. If the Supreme were an object of material vision, they would say, he would not be transcendentally self-manifest. Pipalayana would respond that even if this is true, a special ecstasy is available only to one who presumes that he sees the Lord with his own eyes. And even if devotees only imagine themselves to be seeing the personality of Godhead with their eyes, the ecstasy they experience is real. That ecstasy itself is proof that the potency of the Lord's special mercy has descended upon them, making them rejoice with wonder. The Supreme is impossible to see, but now I am seeing him right before me. It's actually just elaboration of points I've already made before. But again, emphasis, mercy. Even if you presume that you're seeing the Supreme Lord, which was the argument Pippalayana Rishi was giving, that by the mere fact that you're experiencing so much ecstasy is evidence that it's mercy, and mercy is much more important. Without mercy, you can neither hold the form of the Lord in your heart, nor see him with these material eyes. Text 177. By the force of the vast mercy of the Lord, or by the natural influence of devotional service, one can see him. So even with the limited eyes, one can achieve the constant vision one may have with the mind in meditation. Commentary. Now the Vaikuntha Dutas, willing to go along no further with Pippalayana's thinking, refute one of his ideas. Pippalayana might say, seeing the Supreme Lord with one's own eyes is imperfect because by nature, external perception is imperfect. Interruptions and obstacles will inevitably impede one's external vision of the Lord. The mind, however, is extremely subtle. It can reach everywhere and enjoy undisturbed darshan of the Lord in all circumstances. This is Pippalayana Rishi, an argument Pippalayana Rishi may give. Then, although this is not one of the things Pippalayana told Gopakumar on Tapaloka, the Vaikuntha Dutas refuted in this verse, by the Supreme Lord's infinite mercy, even external eyes can see him in all his splendor. This is further evidence of the great efficacy of devotional service. Text 178. If this were not so, by no means would one be able to see the self-effulgent Supreme Controller, even within the mind. When the Lord is worshipped in any manner, he bestows intense happiness, for he is the very embodiment of such happiness. Commentary. If the Lord's special mercy and the potency of devotional service were not the true causes of realizing him, even a mental vision of him would be impossible, for he is self-manifesting, never an object of sensory or mental perception. Again, without mercy, no way. Mercy is the most important. He's building up the argument for the reasons we already spoke before, because he's going to bring us to the conclusion that the best way to get mercy is Harinam Sankirtan. That's all. That's what these verses are doing. They're building up the argument for mercy, the necessity of mercy, and without it, atapite deva padam bhaja dvaya prasana lesano griite hevihi. We oftentimes quote this verse. Unless one gets a drop of mercy from the lotus feet of Krishna, he can never understand the greatness of his personality. It's not by austerities, not by gyan. No, there's no way that if you want to understand him, one has to get a drop of mercy. A drop. So, commentary. Oh, I already started the commentary. Because he is the completely independent controller of everyone, no one can force him to reveal himself. So many arguments Prabhupada used to give at this point, like trying to find the sun in the sky at night with a flashlight. You know, what is the value? You have to be qualified and properly situated in order to see the sun rise in the morning. And as much as you endeavor to look for the sun, it's not possible to find it with your limited instruments. So, by the mercy of the Lord, He reveals, even to external eyes. And there's going to be some nice examples given about this coming up in a few verses. A proponent of inner meditation may argue that by perceiving the Lord internally, the mind with its unlimited scope enjoys unlimited bliss, whereas the limited eyes can perceive only a small fraction of such pleasure. But the Vaikuntha Dutas reply that when devotees worship the personality of Godhead by any of the methods of devotional service, whether by mental meditation or by the direct perception and activity of the external senses, the Lord bestows intense happiness. In fact, according to the Taittiriya Upanishad, boundless pleasure is the very nature of the supreme Rasovaisa Rasam Hivayam Labdva Nandi Bhavati. The supreme is rasa itself. When a living being obtains this rasa, he becomes blissful. Text 179. We everywhere find that by seeing the Lord with the eyes, one achieves His mercy in all its forms, and the most intense and excellent joy. Indeed, to see Him is the goal of hearing and of all the other ways of devotional service. Commentary. Superior to the fruits of realizing the Lord inwardly are the fruits of seeing the Lord with one's own eyes. Srimad Bhagavatam and other Puranas record how Vaishnavas like Kardama and Prahlad received abundant mercy from the Supreme Lord when they met Him in person. On Tapoloka, the sage Pipalayana told Gopakumar about Sri Brahma's attaining similar mercy from the Lord through meditation. But that kind of success for meditation occurs in only a few instances for a rare, fortunate person like Brahma. And the Vaikuntha messengers declare, besides, that the joy felt from directly perceiving the personality of Godhead with one's senses is unequaled. This complete vision, gained by devotional service, in the forms of hearing, chanting, remembering, and so on, is also the ultimate fruit of the devotional service performed by inward meditation. Again, the ultimate fruit is the joy and ecstasy that one experiences by perceiving the Lord, the form of the Lord. Text 180, by all methods of spiritual discipline, seeing the Lord in person is the true reward to be attained. That alone destroys illusion down to the root, so that pure love of God may flourish. Commentary. The direct vision of Lord Vishnu being the supreme fruit of all endeavors is preferable even to realization of the Lord by meditation. In fact, when one sees the Lord directly, one's forgetfulness of Him, which is the root of all illusion, is destroyed. This is described in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Vijate hridaya grantish chidyante sarva samsaya kshiyante chasya karmani drishta evatmani shure. Thus the knot in the heart is pierced, and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated, when one sees the Lord as master. The entanglements of material work, the doubts and confusions of material consciousness, and the knots of material desire all encumber the conditioned soul. But when he again finds his dearmost friend, the Supreme Soul, he transcends all these anomalies. When one perceives the beauty and charm of prema for Lord Vishnu, the natural urge of pure love spontaneously arises in one's heart. Text 181. Although devotees like Prahlad, the son of Kayadu, saw the Lord in their hearts, they always yearned to see him with their eyes. For this, the proof is that when they finally saw him, they felt special ecstasies. Commentary. The experience of Prahlad and other great devotees should be taken seriously because sadachar, the behavior of elevated persons, is important evidence for judging what is of true value. According to Sri Hari Bhakti Sudhadaya, it was after Prahlad first saw Lord Nrsimha that Prahlad's pure love fully blossomed. Little commentary required. Verse is saying, giving an example of Prahlad. Prahlad saw the Lord within his heart. He always meditated on the Lord within his heart. He always remembered the Lord within his heart. But still, because they were always meditating and remembering the Lord within the heart, still they always yearned to see him with their eyes. The example which is given in the Hari Bhakti Sudhadaya, I believe, is Prahlad, not when Lord Nrsimhadev appeared before Prahlad to kill Hiranyakashipu. Not exactly at that moment. As we spoke about on Nrsimha Chaturdasi, Lord Nrsimhadev appears in many different forms, and we explained and gave the evidence that he has an eternal form of half man, half lion, and that is one of his forms. But as Rupa Goswami describes, he has various vilas expansions, and also when he appears in different forms, different colors, and different varieties of ways, not just simply as half man, half lion. We gave all the evidence in that from the various sources in that talk on Nrsimha Chaturdasi. I'm not going to go back there. But the point is that Prahlad saw Lord Nrsimhadev at a time when Hiranyakashipu had conspired to have Prahlad Maharaj. He wanted to get rid of him. As we remember, you read in the Bhagavatam that Prahlad Maharaj was thrown off a mountain. He was put in a vat of burning oil. And so many efforts were made by Hiranyakashipu to kill Prahlad. And one of the efforts that was made is that he told some of his assistants that when my son is sleeping, please tie him up with the snakes, rope of the snakes, and throw him in the ocean while he's sleeping. And then keep him in the ocean by placing weights on him. And this is described in Hari Bhakti Sudhadaya. And what happened is Prahlad Maharaj, while he was in sleep, appeared externally to be sleeping. A little bit different than our sleep. Prahlad only appeared externally to be sleeping, but internally he was meditating on the Lord, as he always does, under all circumstances. He was fully conscious, just like the example of Haridas Thakur. He appeared to be dead, but he wasn't. He was chanting within. He was fully conscious of the Lord within. Prahlad similarly appeared to be sleeping. So these demons, they took Prahlad, they tied him up with various serpents, and they threw him in the ocean, and then they put these hillocks, small hills, on top of Prahlad to keep him submerged in the ocean. And then what happened is that Prahlad was conscious the whole time, and in due course of time, by the waves of the ocean, it brought his body back to shore. And what happened is he was greeted by Varuna. He was greeted by Varuna, and he's also greeted by Garuda. Garuda came, and Garuda actually, he devoured all the snakes that they used to tie him up. And then Varuna began offering his prayers, realizing, the exalted position of Prahlad Maharaj, and began glorifying him and glorifying the Lord. And Prahlad, of course, was very embarrassed. He felt unworthy and was not wanting to hear his own glories, but at the same time, because of his constant meditation and because of his always seeing the Lord within his heart, he heard what Varuna had to say about the glories of the Lord and continued to meditate on those glories of the Lord. Then Varuna departed, he went back, and then Prahlad Maharaj then said to Varuna that I'm very, very eager. I want to see the Lord. Even though he was already seeing the Lord in his heart, he demonstrated by this eagerness and his prayers. He's praying, please, I simply pray for that mercy of that Lord who you just now glorified to me. May he become manifest before my eyes so that I may see him with my eyes. So he was praying very intensely in this way. And because of this, Vaikuntha Dutas are saying, just see, here was somebody who was always meditating on the Lord within his heart, seeing the Lord within his heart, but he wanted to see him with his eyes. Obviously, wanting to see him with his eyes, even though he was seeing with him, must have been something that was better for him. He wanted it. And therefore, we should look at that example and try to understand from that example, from Prahlad Maharaj, that we follow the examples of such great personalities. They also, although we're seeing the Lord within, wanted to see the Lord without. And therefore, consequently, because of his prayers, the Lord appeared before him. And spoke to Prahlad. He saw him. And this was the first time Prahlad actually saw the Lord. And subsequently, he saw his Lord again when the Lord appeared from the pillar. But he had previously seen him at this time when Hiranyakashipu was trying to kill him, and when he appeared before him on the shore of the ocean. At that particular point, he appeared there. This is, as far as I understand, described in the Hari Bhakti Sutta Daya. And this is the reference which is being given here in this commentary by Sanatana Goswami. So as Lord Nrsimha, he appears in different forms. It wasn't the half-man, half-lion form of Lord Nrsimha. It was in another form with 4 arms. It was a 4-arm form that he appeared before Prahlad Maharaj on the shore of the ocean. So, anyways, the commentary says the experiences of Prahlad and other great devotees should be taken seriously because Sadachar, the behavior of elevated persons is important evidence for judging what is of true value. According to Sri Hari Bhakti Sutadaya, it was after Prahlad first saw Lord Nrsimha that Prahlad's pure love fully blossomed. Okay, now there's still several more verses. We haven't even gotten to those verses I was alluding to at the beginning, but they're coming. When am I speaking next? Monday? Monday, yes. They'll come on Monday. And we'll cover those verses on Monday. Wednesday, I'm telling you now because something's brewing. What's brewing is that Shivaram Swami again requested me. Last time he requested me to speak on the Shringa Chaturdasi, and I told him, I basically just told him I wasn't going to do it, which is something very hard for me to do. And he's not a very easy person to say no to. Not because he insists, it's just because he is who he is. So very rarely, if he asks me to do something, I find it very difficult to say no. But because I did say no before, and he completely accepted it, I had a hard time saying no this time. So I may be giving a class on Wednesday, and I don't know what's going to happen. It may be it'll be a Janmashtami class, because Janmashtami on Wednesday in New Rajadam. I think it's on Tuesday in America. That's right, it's Tuesday in America. Okay, forget it. Whatever I'm saying, delete it. I was thinking it was Janmashtami in America, but it's not. It's Vyasa Puja in America on the 12th. So just delete it. Let's chant japa, and we'll end here for now with Brihad Bhagavatamrita.